As your senator, building a modern transportation system will be one of my priorities because investing in transportation is investing in our people. For many working families, transportation isn't just about getting from one place to another. It's about opportunity. It's about keeping a job, getting an education, and building a better future. A strong economy depends on a strong middle class, and a strong middle class depends on having the tools people need to succeed. That's why transportation matters. When workers can get to work reliably, business can grow. When businesses grow, jobs are created. And when jobs are created, families thrive. Imagine a Guam where opportunity is within reach for everyone. I'm Donna Munikanata, and I approve this message.
Please re-elect Senator Shelley Calvo, number 8 on the Republican side of the ballot. She has served Guam with compassion, integrity, and results. She is rooted in service, guided by balance, and driven by community. She cares.
This is Shelley Calvo, and I approve this message.
You know, there's an excitement that I am going to try to explain to you, being on this side of the political spectrum, the news side. And it's something that I didn't understand when Mindy Uggan, she was, where was she at the time? I think she was at KUAM. And I think this was during the time when Mindy, I don't know if anybody remembers Mindy Uggan, great reporter, right? Great investigative reporter. She, there was a time when she was transitioning out of KUAM and she was selling, not Sensi. It was one of those, sign up people and sell things. I can't remember what it was, but she made a killing off of it. Anyway, she told me, and this was when I was transitioning out of the government of Guam. And at the time we're friends and we're having conversations, and she was telling me how all these years that she'd been doing news, and it's the same problems. And she was really good. She and there were some other reporters who were really good at uncovering things, right? But for as much as they uncovered the corruption that was going on in the government of Guam, or even in corporate Guam, or just unethical things or illegal things, only some of those ever caught wind. And all that work that she and other reporters did, and the public auditor and the attorney general, all that stuff, right? All the work that's put into the anti-corruption effort, for only a little bit of it to ever spark into something. And now that I've been doing this job for the past 8 years, seriously for the past 4 or 5 years, right? I know exactly what she means. You uncover so much, you do so much work to bring things forward. And it's days like this that remind me, and should remind all of us, that it's not done in vain. Over the past 3 months, I think it's been, maybe 2 months, it's kind of hard to keep track now, we have been producing an investigative series called Behind the Bid. And it's our extensive look into what the government of Guam has been up to, and what is coming up, or what is in the pipeline for Simon Sanchez High School development, through a procurement that began March of 2025, went into a secret negotiation period in the summer of 2025, and then things started to bubble up, and information and footage and all this stuff became available this year. And that's how we started to do our investigative reports. The crux of it is that the administration, in negotiations with Cortec, which was ranked as the highest offerer to build Simon Sanchez High School, they entered and almost got to a point of awarding a contract that would have placed the taxpayers of Guam on the hook for 32 years of payments of $16.377 million, which is the maximum cap that the legislature set for 32 years, meaning more than $500 million, more than $500 million for one public facility. And in order to accomplish this, the administration got the legislature involved to make it legal, to make this whole thing as ridiculous as it sounds, legal through the legislature. And one of the things that they did to do that was to make a small amendment, a one-line amendment to an existing appropriation that made it possible for these additional years of payments to happen. The award hasn't been, or the contract has been awarded because of a protest. But if it goes through, the legislature essentially was duped into providing additional years of payments, duped into using our money to provide additional years of payments. And despite all of the investigative reporting that we and others have been doing, have been putting out, despite the warnings from the protester, the public auditor, all these different things, right? The legislature still has not rectified this problem. And then Senator Therese Terlaje today, she introduces an amendment that would rectify at least part of the problem, that will begin to correct the problem that the legislature unwittingly contributed to. And I hope and I pray that the rest of the senators, and it's unanimous, jump on to the correction that the senator has proposed. Because otherwise, all this outrage at what the administration did with Cortec in the summer of 2025 would just be, what? Hot air. And so I want to bring you this amendment. I want to talk to you about that more and talk to you about, I mean, just the relief that I have that at least somebody is listening, right? At least somebody pays attention to these investigative reports and is willing to correct the problems that these investigative reports are exposing. And also bring you some footage from the legislature on Sunday. Like I was not paying it. The Sunday is like, that's the Lord's Day. I'm not going to listen to session. The legislature was in session on Sunday. They've been in session every single day the past week or so because of the budget. They're trying to pass a budget. They have a deadline for themselves by tomorrow. I'm not sure if they're going to make it, but they've been meeting every day. And on Sunday was one of the more explosive days over at the legislature and the discussions with things. And two senators who I like, actually, both Therese Terlaje and Chris Duenas, went at it with each other on a proposed amendment that Senator Terlaje had. And I want to show you that clip because it got pretty tense there. Anyway, so we'll talk about these two things on the other side of the commercial break. Stick with us.
He has that innate talent of even the most difficult times, giving comfort, giving solace, bringing stability. In my 64 years, there are people I've known that have passed away, and there's been Tony that has been there to comfort the family and the loved ones, sometimes the most difficult times of their lives. He could better this community as a public servant, but bring people together, even people with divergent thoughts and philosophies, but in the end, bringing enough comfort, enough stability to a situation that there's a consensus and then resolution and progress that is made. So, I'm so excited. I've seen what a great job Tony's done now back in the legislature, but I do believe that with him as governor, that ability to bring people together, to bring folks even with different perspectives together. It's what this island needs. God bless Atacaubo 2026. God bless Guam.
I'm Tony Atta, and I approve this message. transportation, tourism, customs, utilities, and federal and foreign affairs touch every family, every business, every day. Jesse Michael Anderson Lujan believes Guam can be greater together by fighting for cabotage exemption, expanding the Philippine visa waiver program, and opening new doors for tourism investment and opportunity. Vote Jesse Lujan. Leadership you can see. Accountability you can trust.
I'm Jesse Michael Anderson Lujan, and I approve this message.
Welcome back to the show. It is now 7:43 p.m. on Thursday, July 16. Yeah, July 16, 2026. My name is Troy Torres. This is the evening show on Kandit News. My name, and this is called the Troy Torres Show. Senator Therese Terlaje, today she introduced amendment. Does it have a number? I don't know. I don't think amendments have numbers. No, there's no number to the amendment. Anyway. Oh, yes. SB 266 TMT P174 111 or 3 or whatever that's called, Roman numeral 3. And this is what she wants to do. She wants to strike out a portion of a sentence, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. She wants to strike out 5 words from the final sentence of an appropriation that the legislature made in the budget of 2026, which is the current year budget. It was an amendment that Senator Joe Sinagostine made that would appropriate $16,377,125 from 2025 excess revenue for a leaseback payment for Simon Sanchez High School construction. Now, that's a very important distinction to make. Senator Joe Sinagostine, he made the amendment to the budget that would dedicate $16.3 million to Simon Sanchez High School. And this was done in July 29, 2025 is when the amendment happened. The budget was passed a few days later, and the governor, I can't remember what her action was on the budget, but the budget eventually became law. Several months later, well, let me explain the leaseback portion first. Why this appropriation was questionable at the time. And remember, Senator Sinagostine, he wanted to make the appropriation for a leaseback payment. How a leaseback works is when the government of Guam wants something built through a leaseback arrangement, right? It has property. Let's say it's a school. Let's look at Simon Sanchez High School because that's exactly what we're looking at right now. The government of Guam owns the property under which the old Simon Sanchez High School sits. Government of Guam wants Simon Sanchez High School, the current one, to be demolished and a new SSHS to be built. Under a leaseback arrangement, Gov Guam says, hey, company that wins this bid, we will lease this land to you for no more than 24 months. And during that 24-month period, you have an obligation under this contract to go and get the financing, and that will allow you to begin construction. And you have 24 months to construct a new Simon Sanchez High School and then to turn the keys over to us no later than the 730th day or whatever that is, right? And when you turn it over to us, that's a lease back. We're going to lease it back from you because now we owe you money for the construction of the school, the financing that you took out, right? And in order for you to be able to start paying for the debt, the annual debt service, the annual payment that you have to make to the bondholders for that 30-year bond that you're going to take out, we're going to allow you to use a portion of the proceeds of the bond to pay those first 2 years. That's called capitalized interest. And the rest of the proceeds is what you can use to build Simon Sanchez High School, and then we have to consider the insurance and the maintenance payment, all this different stuff, right? But the lease back period doesn't start until 2 years after the entire thing starts. So let's say, for example, the contract is awarded, and come October 1 of this year, Cortec gets to start building Simon Sanchez High. They get to go out to financing or whatever, right? They have until September 30 of 2028 to finish that school, to finish Simon Sanchez High School, and to turn it over to the government of Guam, so that on October 1 of 2028, not only is Simon Sanchez High School inhabitable by the new students of by the students of SSHS, but now the government is in a lease back period, and the government of Guam would begin to make payments to the contractor, to the developer, Cortec in this case, and the legislature set a maximum. The maximum amount that the government of Guam is going to pay in these leaseback payments is $16.377 million. Now, this appropriation, the San Augustine appropriation, happened, and almost all the senators voted for this. And I've asked them why. Why did they vote for this? Why did they vote for an amendment to the budget appropriating $16.3 million, the max? If one, they didn't even know what the financing terms were from the new, there wasn't even a contract. I don't even think anybody knew who the selected developer was at the time, at least officially. So why would they agree to appropriate an amount of money that they didn't even know? They didn't even know what the annual payment would be. And why would, more importantly, why would they appropriate money in fiscal year 2026 when, if the construction started in 2025, it would not be expected to be completed until 2027, which is way after fiscal year 2026. Why are you appropriating money for a leaseback payment? So that question, the administration jumps on, right? That confusion, basically, the administration jumps on. And a few months later, they convince, this is according to Senator Chris Duenas, they convinced Senator Chris Duenas to introduce a bill to amend the San Augustine Amendment. And that bill passes in January or February of this year. And essentially the only thing, aside from another whole section that was added during the deliberations that had to do, I don't even understand what that whole other section is, but we're not going to talk about that because that has nothing to do with the appropriation. With the San Augustine appropriation, Chris Duenas introduced this bill to amend it so that instead of the sentence ending, it says, notwithstanding any other provision of law, $16,377,125 is hereby appropriated from the net projected unobligated fiscal year 2025 general fund revenue balance as identified in the June 2025 Consolidated Revenue and Expenditure Report for the Simon A. Sanchez High School construction leaseback payments. Period. That's where Joe San Augustine's amendment ended. The Duenas Amendment Bill removed the period, moved the period in order to add the 5 words and associated pre-development stage expenses. And I asked Senator Duenas, I asked all the senators, in fact, why they agreed to this. And they said that they were told by the administration, they were assured by the administration that in order for the Simon Sanchez High School development to move forward, they needed this money for pre-development stage expenses. I asked, so what does that mean? And the senators said that they were not made aware of that what that meant was an additional payment, an additional authorization, legal now. When the legislature allows it, it becomes legal. The legislature legally allowed, through these 5 words added, Cortec if it's awarded this contract, to get another $16.377 million. And this was verified and validated a few days ago when the budget director, Lester Carlson Jr., who was also a member of the negotiating team, admitted it and said, and then he even threw it back at the legislature. He said, hey, you guys allowed it. You guys were the ones who made this 32 years. And the senators have been pretty clear in telling me that they were not aware that they allowed this to happen. But the language is right there. They really did allow it to happen. It was an unwitting thing. At least if we take them at face value, and I believe them, they did not realize that what they were doing was adding one additional year to this whole thing. For as much outrage as there has been about this entire issue, nobody has tried to roll back that language. Nobody has tried to get rid of that language until today. Senator Terlaje, she introduced an amendment that would strike out those 5 words and associated pre-development stage expenses, essentially neutering the whole thing. It's this authorization is for a leaseback payment. That leaseback payment ain't going to begin until 2 years after whenever this thing begins, if it ever even begins, because of the problems that the administration has mired. Like the administration screwed this up royally. The legislature screwed this up royally. This whole Simon Sanchez High School thing. And I believe them when they say that they weren't trying to screw anything up. I believe them when they say that they did whatever they thought that they needed to do in order to move this forward. I believe that Josh Tenorio and Lulian Guerrero really did want a feather in their cap. They really did want this to happen so that they could be able to say, hey, I built Simon Sanchez High School. The problem is these people listening to certain people who have vested interests, who have special interests in this, that, or the other thing. And this is a hard lesson for everyone to learn in the legislature and in the administration. And I don't know if anyone's learning that lesson because nobody came forward to correct this problem until just, as a matter of fact, Josh Tenorio tried to ramrod the whole procurement through, even knowing the problems that there were. Knowing that it was going to cost the taxpayers more than $500 million for one public facility over an unprecedented 32-year payback period rather than a 30-year. There's no bonds that we've taken out that we've had to pay for longer than 30 years. It's always 30 years or less in long-term financing costs. But for at 32 years and at more than $500 million, Josh Tenorio was trying to ramrod this thing through. So I'm not sure if lessons were learned. But at the very least, you have one senator. Now, one senator can't move the law. It takes at least 8 senators. And I don't know whether this is something that the legislature has already discussed today and has already voted on. If they have, I hope it passed. But I think we have to be concerned that a lot of times in this legislature and previous legislatures, senators don't do things that Senator Terlaje proposes because for whatever reason they don't like her. But senators, if any of you are listening, if your staff are listening, I implore you, this is the right thing to do. Strike those 5 words and associated pre-development stage expenses in order to spare us, the taxpayers, from paying $16.377 million that we were duped, that you guys were duped into authorizing. And that, at least speaking for myself as a taxpayer, and I have to imagine that any reasonable taxpayer would be against a $500 million one public facility. That's just insanity. Like, how did we get to this point? And why did the legislature even allow that type? Like, the legislature is the one that allowed that when they passed the McCaw Act in 2023. And if any of them were doing the math with a calculator on their desk, 16,377,125 times 30 years equals $489 million. Add $32 million to that, and what is that, 511 or something like that? That's how much. That's crazy. So at least we have one senator who is trying to reason this whole thing out in favor of the taxpayers. Now, the next thing I want to bring to you is, it's not related to this Simon Sanchez High School thing, but it is related to Senator Therese Terlaje and Senator Chris Duenas. And before the break, I was explaining to you how, like, I like both these senators. I think they're good people, right? Do they make mistakes? Yes, of course. And it's such a shame that these two senators don't get along better, because I think they can be a real force against the shenanigans of the administration if they did see eye to eye more often. If, they did yield to each other and were not, I don't know. You watch this exchange and you'll see what I mean, because anyway, here is that exchange. I always have problems transitioning to the whole other screen thing. Here's that exchange between mainly between Senator Chris Duenas and Senator Therese Terlaje on Sunday.
Committee of the Whole is back from recess. Colleagues, we are on TMT amendment, SB 266 TMT P47. I'm going to rule this amendment out of order. You cannot change last year's revenues in this year's budget. So this amendment is out of order.
Mr. Chair, where are you getting that rule?
From Office and Finance and Budget.
There are some times when we are not allowed to use excess unless we do go back and change the revenue. The rules keep changing and changing. There's no such rule that we cannot do that. We are the legislature. We can amend last year's budget revenue appropriations.
Motion
of course
to overrule
we
the
can.
chair? Yeah. Would you like a motion to overrule
No,
the
I
chair?
object to you changing the rules and making rules up, Mr. Chair.
Ma'am, Senator,
If
I did not change the rules. The rule was made. You want
There's
to
no
ask
such
Office of
rule.
Finance and Budget?
There is no such rule.
I will yield to Office of Finance and Budget because they were the one who made the recommendation.
Is the Office of Finance Budget saying that the legislature cannot amend the revenue projections that were made in the fiscal year 2026
That's
budget?
why I'm going to allow them to speak,
Because
ma'am.
we have done that so many times.
Are you going to allow them to speak?
I will.
Then thank you. Yield to them.
Okay, Senator, yes. It's not so much that
Are we not allowed to?
you're not allowed to.
That's
But
the
since the
question.
fiscal year is over, the revenues have already been posted and collected. It'd be difficult to go back and change these numbers once it's already recorded. So in other words, what we're saying is that if you're going to go back to something that has already been closed,
I don't understand. It's July 2026. It doesn't close until September 30, right?
we're talking about the current year appropriation.
Yes.
Just so you know, based on my experience in the government, Senator Terlaje is right.
Okay, Senator, let me go back here a little bit. If we're talking about the FY26 revenue base, and the amendment is to change the revenues in a certain revenue category. If it's a current year, you can. If it's a previous year, it'd be difficult to do that. So I think that was the misunderstanding, and I stand corrected with my chairman. If it is current year revenues, we still have the ability to change it at this time until the end of the fiscal year.
Thank you, Mr. Director. if I can proceed, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, I'm going to also check, though, because I believe the prior amendment has already nullified this amendment.
Well, I'd just like to speak on it, Mr. Chair, if that's...
1 minute's recess.
What?
Except as otherwise provided by this Act.
I just fast forwarded through.
The Committee of the Whole is back in order. I'm going to rule this amendment out actually for 2 reasons, but I'm going to go back to the previous discussion. We are now here on the fiscal year 2027 budget. On page 1 of the budget, if you read under general provisions, except as otherwise provided by this Act, the appropriations made by this Act shall be available to pay for fiscal year 2027 obligations incurred on or after October 1, 2026, but no later than September 30, 2027. If any appropriations act is found contrary to federal law, well, that is something else. But that means that this amendment would only effectuate in 2027, not currently. So, and
Mr.
then
Chair.
the prior, excuse me, I still have the floor. Also, the prior amendment has already appropriated this $20 million for the same purpose. So the amendment is ruled out of order.
Mr. Chair, as you said, the prior amendment amends the FY26 budget. Supposedly, according to all of you, to make that money get to GMH immediately, meaning effective immediately, right? Not going to wait anymore until FY27. This amendment that you are ruling now out of order is exactly the same. It is an amendment to the FY26 budget, increasing the revenue so that there is enough revenue for the appropriation. And I know that we have done this in previous budgets because that's just another way of finding excess revenues or showing it in another way, in fact, more accurately. But, Mr. Chair, you keep changing the rules. You keep ruling that there's a rule that we can't do this, and you already, OFB, said, yes, of course we can amend the FY26 budget, right? Of course we can. We just did it in the previous amendment that passed.
But it won't be effectuated. It will be effectuated in 27, which will be too late. Senator, I've made my ruling.
So they're the same. They'll be effectuated whenever they're effectuated.
Do you make a motion to overrule the chair?
That's not. No, Mr. Chair, I am objecting to you allowing one and not another, then they are the exact same thing, amending the FY26 budget bill. No, I want you to be fair, Mr. Chair.
I'm fair.
And stop making rules up. Listen.
I'm fair.
So how is one amendment that amends FY26 budget allowed and another amendment that amends the FY26 budget not allowed?
Senator,
simple as that.
I have explained myself.
There's no legal barrier. It's a made-up barrier by you, Mr. Chair.
The amendment has just
even
passed,
after OFB said it is allowed.
Which makes this amendment moot. Do you make a motion to overrule the chair?
No, I want you to be fair, Mr. Chair. I'm calling a point of order. I want you to follow our rules, not make rules up.
You have to overrule the chair in order to make...
The chair doesn't get to rule things out of order that he just makes a rule up on it.
Senator, are you making a motion to overrule the chair?
There's no rule forbidding this amendment, Mr. Chair.
Senator, are you making a motion to overrule the chair?
Is there a rule? Please cite the rule that forbids this amendment.
Are you making a motion to overrule the chair?
I want you to cite your rule. I'm calling a point of order. I want you to cite the rule that allows you to rule.
I cited that the amendment is out of order because it has already, the previous amendment has nullified this appropriation.
How is that?
Because it's already been appropriated by the passage of the previous amendment.
You don't know that?
I do know that.
No, this is maybe to give another $20 million to GMH. You can't do that for me.
Senator, I've made a ruling.
Where does it get nullified? Where do you find that? You're interpreting things, Mr. Chair.
Are you making a motion to override the
chair? You are
interpreting.
You are making rules up and interpreting. I think if you would just let the amendment flow, we can decide if this is too much money to give to GMH or not. That's really it in FY26, whether we want to amend the FY26 budget anymore or not. But for you to make rules up and to say one person can do it, but I can't do it, again, I don't understand this mentality. Or that you get to decide whether this appropriation to GMH is necessary or redundant or not. We're doing numbers here. We decide that.
Is there a motion to overrule the chair?
No, I am asking you to tell me which rule allows you to rule one amendment to the FY26 budget allowed and another amendment to the FY26 budget not allowed. Who's talking?
Yes. There has been a point of order made. Senator, are you making a motion to overrule the chair?
I want you to cite me your rule, because you didn't cite that rule in the beginning when you laid down the rules. There is no such standing rule. There is no such Mason's rule. There is no such law.
In order
It's
to proceed,
completely fabricated.
in order to proceed, you must overrule the chair.
No,
The
in order
decision of the
for the
chair.
chair to rule something out of order, he's got to have some kind of a rule to follow.
I gave you a reason. There's been a prior appropriation that has exhausted the appropriation that your amendment calls for.
That's not true. We just heard
It is
from
true.
BBMR or OFB that there was $88 million excess. They put $23.4 million aside for special funds shortfall. The previous amendment gives a $20 million to GMH. There's still $45 million. So there's no such thing as
There
moot.
is no intention to have $40 million appropriated to GMH at this point.
This is $20 million.
Yeah, and on top of the other $20 million, that would be $40 million.
Well,
Senator,
that's
you
again
have been ruled
your
out of
opinion
order.
of
Yeah.
whether you want GMH to have money. That has
Senator,
nothing to do with a rule,
Your
Mr. Chair.
motion is out of order.
I would ask the body to
Do
please.
you wish to overrule the chair?
Can we follow rules in here? Again, we're going to do this.
The will of the body will be expressed once you make a motion to overrule the chair.
You can't cite a rule, can you? There is no such thing. Just
Senator, are
making
you
things
making
up
a
for one
motion?
person versus any other.
Senator, are you making a motion to overrule the chair?
To make a motion for the chair, no, because that would just allow you to make up rules as we go along. Can you cite the rule that you told us in the beginning that forbids us from changing the FY26 budget?
Senator, are you making a motion to
Is there a
overrule the
rule?
chair?
Did you ever state a rule? There's none. Just ask legal. We can absolutely amend the FY26 budget.
Senator, are you making a motion to overrule the chair?
No, I am asking the chair to cite the rule that he's saying this is not allowed. You know there's none.
Senator,
But you
are
still
you making
insist.
a motion to
There's
overrule
no
the chair?
such rule.
Point of order, Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
But, Mr. Chair, the rules of time and space, you cannot change something in next year's budget that impacts this year's budget, Mr. Chair. When next year's budget, kicks in, the revenue you are changing has passed already. So the fiscal year you are changing will be over. So that's my point of order, Mr. Chair.
That's not a rule either. That's an interpretation that contradicts everything. In fact,
Yes, I did
legal
rule the same
says
way on
that,
your point of order.
course, the legislature
Yes.
can amend the current fiscal year's
That's why I
budget
made the
while
ruling
discussing a
when you
future
moved the,
budget.
point of order. Senator.
Please
Thank you for
ask
your
Point of
legal.
order, Mr. Chair.
This is typically done.
And let's do this in order. Mr. Speaker, point of order.
Thank you, sir. Once the ruling of the chair has been announced, it is then the member's prerogative to ask for the body to overrule the chair, and if it's successful, then it's overruled. So the question here is as to whether or not you've already made a ruling on it, and if the member wants to move on overruling the chair, then that so motion be made. But other than that, there's no other discussion. Thank you very much.
Is that the case, Mr. Speaker, when they're making rules up or when they're just interpreting rules? Because he's just making one up
ruling-
now.
Address the
He
chair,
can't
please.
even
The
cite
ruling
one.
of the chair.
Follow the
chair has
rules
already
and
made
address the
ruling.
chair.
Chair has already made
Follow the
ruling.
rules and address the chair, ma'am.
All right. So legal says, yes, legislatures can amend the current fiscal year budget while discussing a future budget. This is typically done. Lawmakers pass this bill to add, remove, or shift money in the active budget. Legislatures can pass this bill at any time during the legislative session. It's common for lawmakers to review the current budget shortfalls or surpluses before passing next year's budget.
Point of order, Mr. Chair.
Yes, point of order.
Sir, the chair has already made a ruling on it.
Correct.
And then it's the member's prerogative as to whether or not to ask for reconsideration of, for overruling of the rule, of the ruling of the chair. That is the only discussion allowed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Is there a motion to overrule the chair, Senator?
What is the chair's ruling again?
The chair has ruled
That there's such a rule?
Amendment is out of order.
Why?
I cited it already.
No, but you changed your mind. First you said it was because we couldn't amend the current budget. Then OFB said, yes, you can. Then legal said, yes, you can. And then you said, because you don't want to give GMH 20 million more. Is that the reason? So which one?
We're moving to the next amendment. The next amendment is Amendment TMT. It's SB 266 TMT P54. Mangilao Public Health Facility. I'm going to rule this amendment out of order. This goes against Public Law 3863 that moved Mangilao Facility from DPHSS to GCC. Substantive policy change, and recommend to move this amendment to the miscellaneous provisions. Amendment is out of order.
Wait, Mr. Chair, this is not an amendment to any policy. It is strictly an appropriation. You can't even cite a policy in here. There's nothing that interferes with any former policy. It's an appropriation of $20 million for the refurbishment of the former public health Mangilao facility. No matter who owns it, this money is going to go to them to refurbish the facility. There's already an existing agreement as to how.
I want to talk first, sorry, before moving forward with that, I want to talk first about what just happened. And that was, it was glaringly obvious that the Republicans had no reason to rely upon for the ruling that Senator Dueñas made and for their support of the ruling Senator Dueñas made. At first, the ruling was based on the use of FY 2026 revenues, and they had just, like right before that whole thing started, like before that clip that I played for you, the legislature had just passed an amendment by Senator Sabrina Salas-Matsinani to appropriate $20 million in excess fiscal year 2026 revenue to Guam Memorial Hospital. Senator Therese Terlaje had an amendment to use excess 2026 revenue, and Senator Dueñas ruled her out of order, saying that you cannot use those revenues because that year had closed, but the year hasn't closed because it hasn't reached September 30th yet. And also, you guys just allowed Senator Sabrina Salas-Matsinani to do the same exact thing. Like, how can you rule that out of order? And then he ruled the Terlaje amendment out of order because it was going to do the same thing as the Sabrina Salas-Matsinani amendment, which I don't even know is a reason to rule something out of order. But Senator Terlaje says, she's like, how do you know that? We haven't even discussed it. You haven't even allowed me to discuss it yet because you ruled it out of order. My point here is it's glaringly obvious that the main problem here, and what Republicans need to answer to us, the people of Guam, about, said, all of this, all of these problems that they're having in this budget session come down to one thing: the revenue erosion, the revenue loss, because the Republicans are hell-bent on reducing the BPT from 4.5 to 4%. So now they're trying to rush through this entire thing, and they're trying to clip off any type of hesitation from any senator, any type of debate that there might be about very serious issues. This is like, to be clear, this whole thing is about getting more resources to GMH. Very serious thing, very necessary thing. But they're not doing, and they're not doing all these other things because they're stuck on this whole BPT thing. And they don't want to be blamed for any underfunding issues or, things like this that come about. I think the Republicans have greatly miscalculated this entire thing, and they are going to place their majority in danger if they continue to go down this road, which is a sad thing because a lot of these guys they're good legislators. They're just having this problem right now because they're stuck on this whole BPT thing. Again, let me just emphasize, I really do like Senator Chris Duenas. I really do. I disagree with him on this, right? And how he's handling himself is professional, and there is that, right? But Senator Terlaje is right. Like, he's not giving a reason. And the other senators are condoning this by allowing this to continue as well, and by not taking her side on this thing, and by not also demanding to know, well, what is the actual rule? You do have to cite a rule. When a point of order is called and the chair makes a decision, the chair has to back it up with a rule. And if it's not in the standing rules, it needs to be in the Mason's Manual on Legislative Procedure. And according to Therese Terlaje, who is a lawyer, it's in neither. And no one on the floor and the chairman of the committee, none of them can cite a rule, and it's because none exists that would back up Senator Duenas' ruling. Anyway, let's continue hearing what Senator Terlaje and Senator Duenas had to say about this new amendment that Senator Duenas has ruled out of order by Senator Terlaje.
How that facility is going to be redone. They are going to share it between GCC and public health, as was the policy that you're citing. This doesn't affect that at all. It actually gives them money to go forward with the study that has already been completed and the A&E that's supposed to be completed that we've already paid for. So this is an appropriation, that's all it is. Exactly like the previously passed amendment was an appropriation to GMH. This is an appropriation as well of Senator, unaudited excess revenues. Same.
Senator, that appropriation was already appropriated in the fiscal year 2026. This is a new appropriation, which means it should be in the miscellaneous provisions.
Okay.
Your amendment is out of order.
Why should it be in miscellaneous when this is for public health?
It is not in the chapter because it is not changing the revenues. It has to go into miscellaneous provisions.
What?
Because it's not proper in the chapter.
Why didn't the other one have to go to miscellaneous provisions?
Because of
this was for GMH?
Because it was already appropriated in 2026. In the 2026
But that's the reason budget. You told me my other amendment's not. Come on, Mr. Chair, do not be making rules up.
I'm not making rules up.
This is an amendment for this chapter of the bill. It's an appropriation, just like in FY26, when you put in the excess revenues for GMH, you put it in the GMH section.
They were appropriated already.
It was exactly.
All we did was a language change.
In FY26.
We did a language
OFB,
change.
if you can confirm.
We did a
FY26, when this GMH 20 million appropriation for excess revenues was put in, it was put in the GMH section.
The amendment's
That's why I'm trying to do the exact same thing that we did last year and put in an appropriation in the public health section right now, right here.
The amendment's out of order, Senator.
That's again making up rules, Mr. Chair. What rule did you say that we can't put appropriations in this chapter?
We're moving to the next amendment?
No, because that affects many, many amendments that have been put in already. for excess revenues to be spent by these agencies, and now you're going to rule them all out of order because you just made a rule up right now that now we can't put in appropriations for excess revenue? You didn't announce any rule like that.
They will be entertained in the miscellaneous provisions.
But what? But you never announced that. That's a made-up rule, Mr. Chair.
We are going to the next amendment. The next
I object.
Can I just ask real quick, because I don't know if you've noticed, and it's been such a distraction. Why does Senator Tina Muñoz Barnes keep going in and out of the legislative hall, and why are there a couple of empty seats there? Who is not present in this session? Can we get a head, like in the comments? Let's get a head count of who is not there in this session. This is pretty important stuff.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair, can we call for a moment's recess on a point of order? Can we call for a moment's recess so you guys can discuss? Please call for a moment's recess.
We are in recess.
So Senator Tina Muñoz Barnes, she goes in. She's not even in. She's going out again. She's leaving again. She's not even in the room for the entirety of that whole thing. She's going in and out. And then she calls a recess because I don't know what. Okay, that was ridiculous. Who is not? Can we see who is not there? Senator Chris Barnett. He's not in his seat, but he was there earlier. Senator Sean Gumatauta, was he there? I can't remember. Who sits behind Senator Chris Barnett? Senator Parkinson. He's not there. Who sits behind Senator Parkinson? And then there is an empty chair for Senator Chris Duenas because he's in the chair's seat. Senator Vince Borja isn't there right now, but he was there throughout the whole thing. I did see him. Senator Joseph Augustine. Where are these senators during this very important discussion? And let's speed this up if they ever get back to. Yeah, there we go.
The committee holds back in order. We are now on amendment by Senator Calvo, SB 266.
Mr. Chair, my amendment.
SVC L5 P57. This amendment also is ruled out of order.
Mr. Chair, on my amendment.
Moving on.
Mr. Chair,
on my amendment.
We'll circle back during the miscellaneous, correct?
That's correct. And thank you for being accommodating. And I'm sorry, we had talked about that earlier. Yes. I'm sorry, Senator.
Mr. Chair,
on
my amendment, Mr. Chair.
In the next, in the miscellaneous. I understood that that's what you're going to be doing, right? Is moving that?
Thank you. Appreciate that,
Mr. Chair. When you recessed, you were on my amendment. And
we are now on amendment
Mr. Chair.
SFP.
Mr. Chair, point of order.
266.
Point of order.
SFP L8 P54.
Point of order, Mr. Chair. Point of order.
This uses lapses at this point. This is also
point of order, Mr. Chair.
Yes, mention your point of order, please.
Yes, when we recessed, we were on my amendment, and when you came back from recess, you skipped it, and we're still on my amendment, and
Senator,
this is
you make a motion
again,
to go back to your amendment?
No, I'm not making a motion to go back. I'm saying point of order. You didn't go back to where you went when you recessed.
We're in recess.
It follows the exact same pattern as the previous amendment that was passed and allowed by you. It also follows the exact same pattern as using excess appropriations in the FY26 budget bill that we also passed and you also allowed back then.
We discussed this already, and I said
and
that
we
it is
also went over the rules that you had given us in the beginning of the session. And there is no such rule that you are making up, Mr. Chair. It is appropriate in the miscellaneous
provisions. Would you wish to overrule
Say that
the chair?
again?
It is appropriate in the miscellaneous provisions.
It's also appropriate here, Mr. Chair.
Are you moving to overrule the chair?
It's also appropriate here, isn't it, Mr. Chair?
Are
Like
you
it was in
moving-
FY26 for GMH and all other appropriations made in these other chapters?
It is appropriate in the miscellaneous provisions, and it's.
But it's also
you can place it
appropriated
there.
here, right, Mr. Chair? And is there a rule that you made that we could
Senator,
not
are
make
you-
appropriations
Mr.
for public
Yes.
health
Mr. Chair,
in
point
public
of
health?
information, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
For my specific amendment, since it keeps being brought up,
Yes.
is it a new appropriation or am I amending the current
Yes.
fiscal year budget
Thank
to
you for the
allow
point of order. That's yes.
to allow for an appropriation that they should be getting immediately?
That's
These
correct.
subsequent amendments that we keep referring to that you've been ruling out of order, are they new appropriations?
They are all new appropriations.
Thank you, because
Exactly.
I have
Yes.
amendments in the miscellaneous provisions because I understood the rule at the beginning.
There was no rule.
I heard the
order.
rule.
There is absolutely no rule.
I heard the rule.
I would like you
Absolutely.
to read it to me because
I'm not talking about
there
something in the
was no
standing
such
rules.
rule.
Yes.
It was the rules of engagement at the beginning.
Yeah, that's what I mean. There was no
Yes, and
such
I heard the
rule.
rules
Yes,
of
it was.
engagement.
You
So
have
did
to-
I. And I'm asking the
and that's
chair
why
and the
my
clerk.
amendments for appropriations, new appropriations, are in the miscellaneous provisions.
That's correct.
There
And
is no
that's-
such rule in the rules of engagement. Mr. Chair, I would like you to take a recess and go read that. I thought that's what you were doing with all
Would
these
you-
recesses. If you could go read the rules
Would
that you
you-
read to us,
would you like
or
to-
have the clerk read your entire rules of engagement, because that's a
are-
lie,
It was
Mr.
verbal.
Chair.
They didn't come back from that one. The legislature, they were done. They were done with session that day. I just went through it. They didn't. The legislature has left session. There's an interesting. All of you have interesting comments, right? But there is a very interesting comment from Timothy Counts, and I want to address it. He says, most senators are just puppets to whichever governor is in office. As you can tell them, most of them never introduce a single bill. Okay. I want to speak specifically about the two main characters in today's thing, right? Senator Therese Terlaje and Senator Chris Duenas. Neither of them is a puppet of the administration. And this is what saddens me about that exchange, is that both of them have been highly reliable counterweights against the power of the governor. They have been, both of these senators, Duenas and Terlaje, have been highly reliable at pushing back against Governor Lulian Guerrero and Lieutenant Governor Josh Tenorio. Not only have they been unafraid to speak up, they have both been competent and qualified in how they speak and what they say and the issues that they bring up, more so than many other legislators. On the Republican side of the fence, you know, Chris Duenas is the Republican that you can count on to call out the administration with the knowledge that he has built up over the years as a senator and as a government director as well, when he used to be in the executive branch. Senator Sean Gumatauta, you can count on him to be that that loyal opposition to the governor as well. It's just he's not as seasoned as Senator Chris Duenas is. And then, of course, on the Democrat side, you have Therese Terlaje, Chris Barnett, and Sabina Perez, who have been vociferous opponents of the administration, just calling them out, and all of them very smart, right? And you know what has been sort of like a coalition. Senator Telo Taitigui, a Republican, who is just as brilliant in how she calls out the administration. So, you know, Timothy Counts, I get what you're saying, but in this instance, what's sad is that both of those senators are not puppets of the governor. Matter of fact, they've been very successful. They have been efficient and successful at calling out the BS from Adelup. And if it weren't for this BPT issue, I'm telling you, it's this BPT issue. It's the Republicans digging in on this whole BPT thing that is causing this entire mess. And if it weren't for that, these guys would all be on the same page, and they would know. They would be fighting who and what is really causing the problems of this government rather than each other. And it's a sad thing that they're fighting each other. But I mean, we're not stupid people. We're civilians, but we're not stupid people. Watching that, being reasonable, being objective, we know that Senator Terlaje was right. And it's just a sad thing that the legislature acted the way it did that way and did not support Senator Terlaje with that. Anyway, we'll come back tomorrow morning. I promise you we're going to have the morning show, not even on time. We're going to have it early. Tomorrow, the morning show is going to be at 7:30 a.m. I'm not going to tell you why right now because I don't want to worry anybody. But it's because I have to accommodate a guest caller in at 7:30 tomorrow. So I won't say anything more than that. So we'll talk about that, and we'll talk about whatever other issues. There's so much more of the session that has happened that I want to bring to you. So maybe one of the things that we'll discuss after that guest call in about a certain issue is we'll get back to our coverage of the legislative debate on the budget. For Kandit News, I'm Troy Torres. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. Thank you always for joining me on these shows. And I got great news, by the way. We have our contract for our new studio. So hopefully soon more people will be joining me on this show. Like Johnny Rosario needs to have her own evening show on Kandit to talk about whatever she wants. She needs to take one of these shows away from me at night. Mike St. Nicholas needs to get his butt back into doing evening shows for us. And when we have a studio, it'll be easier. There are a couple of people I'm going to be talking to about doing shows as well, because I want to be doing other stuff at night. I don't want to be doing Kandit all the time. For Kandit News, I'm Troy Torres. You all have a good night. God bless you. And thank you so much.
He has an innate talent of even the most difficult times, giving comfort, giving solace, bringing stability. In my 64 years, there are people I've known that have passed away, and there's been Tony that has been there to comfort the family and the loved ones, sometimes the most difficult times of their lives. He could better this community as a public servant, but bring people together, even people with divergent thoughts and philosophies, but in the end, bringing enough comfort, enough stability to a situation that there's a consensus and then resolution and progress that is made. So, I'm so excited. I've seen what a great job Tony's done now back in the legislature. But I do believe that with him as governor, that ability to bring people together, to bring folks even with different perspectives together, it's what this island needs. God bless Atacaubo 2026. God bless Guam.
I'm Tony Atta, and I approve this message.